guys, tonight we will embark on a quiet journey back to the early 19th century, joining the legendary Lewis and Clark expedition as they charted the vast, untamed American West. Close your eyes and imagine the creak of leather, the scent of damp earth, and the distant calls of unfamiliar birds as you step into their boots, feeling the crisp morning air on your face. You're about to discover the surprisingly simple, yet utterly vital, foods that fueled their monumental trek. It's an adventure you probably wouldn't survive without modern conveniences, even with a full pantry. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand at the edge of civilization, staring at the towering piles of provisions gathered for this unprecedented journey up the Missouri River. A common historical fact you observe is the sheer volume of salted pork and flour packed onto the keelboat. It's practically the expedition's lifeline, meant to sustain them for months before they even glimpse the Rocky Mountains. You watch as men heft barrels of hardtack, a kind of simple, unleavened bread that would be your constant, unexciting companion. Here's a quirky piece of information you might not expect. Among the initial supplies were 193 pounds of portable soup, essentially a dried bouillon made from boiled beef, bones, and vegetables, reduced to a gelatinous brick. Imagine trying to reconstitute that over a sputtering campfire, a true gourmet experience, I'm sure. Historians still debate whether this soup was genuinely palatable or mostly served as a last resort morale-boosting placebo. You feel a strange mixture of awe and trepidation, knowing that these meager provisions are all that stand between you and the wilderness. As your journey progresses, the landscape unfurls before you, a tapestry of green forests and winding rivers. You quickly learn that relying solely on initial stores is a recipe for disaster. This is where the hunt becomes crucial. A common historical fact is that hunting provided the bulk of the expedition's fresh meat, with elk, deer, buffalo, and even bear frequently falling to their rifles. You hear the crack of a musket in the distance, a signal that dinner might be secured. The expedition consumed an astonishing amount of meat. It's estimated each man ate around 9 pounds per day when game was plentiful, which sounds like an extreme protein diet by today's standards, doesn't it? Here's a quirky detail. When large game was scarce, they weren't above catching and eating prairie dogs, although Clark described them as having a rather rank taste. Historians still debate whether the sheer volume of hunting significantly impacted local game populations, or if the vastness of the frontier simply absorbed their efforts. You learn to scan the riverbanks, not for pretty wildflowers, but for signs of game, your stomach rumbling softly in anticipation. Through long, sun-drenched days and cool, star-filled nights, you come to appreciate the true heroes of your diet, the humble, yet ever-present staples. A common historical fact is that the main caloric backbone, beyond what was hunted, was flour and pork. You watch as a cook carefully doles out portions of flour for baking, often into simple bread or biscuits cooked in cast-iron Dutch ovens over open flames. The sizzling of salt pork rendering down is a sound of comfort, providing much-needed fat and calories. Here's a quirky fact about their flour. They would often mix it with water and a bit of rendered fat to create a simple dough called fry bread, cooking it quickly on hot stones or in a pan. It might not be gourmet, but it's warm and filling after a long day of rowing, a true wilderness comfort food. Historians still debate whether the men truly enjoy these monotonous meals or if sheer necessity simply dulled their taste buds to the same old, same old. You find yourself savoring every bite, knowing how precious each calorie is in this relentless wilderness. The relentless march of time and the unforgiving elements present a constant challenge. How do you keep your food from spoiling? A common historical fact is that salting and drying were the primary methods of preservation. You observe the men diligently rubbing down freshly butchered meat with salt, then hanging strips to dry in the sun or over slow-burning fires, creating jerky. Remember that large supply of salted pork we saw earlier? It's your prime example, a true long-term investment. Here's a quirky piece of information. When they had the luxury, they would also try to smoke meat, especially fish, for longer preservation. Imagine the smoky aroma clinging to your clothes and hair for weeks, a scent that probably never fully left them. Historians still debate the effectiveness of these methods in the humid conditions of parts of their journey, questioning how much food was lost to spoilage despite their best efforts. You learn to tell the difference between preserved and questionably edible with startling speed, a skill your modern self probably wouldn't appreciate on a camping trip. As you push further west, the terrain changes, and you encounter the diverse Native American tribes who have called this land home for millennia. A common historical fact is that trade with these indigenous peoples became absolutely vital for the expedition's survival, especially when their own provisions ran low. You watch as Captain Lewis barters for corn, beans, squash, and sometimes even fresh fish or game. Here's a quirky detail. They also traded for pemmican, a concentrated food made from dried meat, rendered fat, and sometimes berries, which was an ingenious, calorie-dense staple of many Native American diets. It's like the original energy bar, but probably less chewy. Historians still debate the extent to which the expedition's success hinged on these exchanges, and if their own ability to hunt and navigate would have been sufficient without native assistance. You feel a profound sense of gratitude, realizing that the knowledge and generosity of these tribes are literally keeping you alive. The journey is long, and the diet, despite efforts, is often imbalanced. You witness the physical toll it takes on the men. A common historical fact is that the expedition suffered from various illnesses, including scurvy, caused by a lack of vitamin C. You see men with swollen gums and aching joints, a stark reminder of the absence of fresh fruits and vegetables for long stretches. Here's a quirky solution they sometimes employed. When fresh wild onions, berries, or other greens were found, they were eagerly consumed, sometimes in prodigious amounts, as the men instinctively sought out these vital nutrients. Imagine the joyous discovery of a patch of wild onions after months without greens. It would feel like hitting the lottery. Historians still debate the exact impact of their diet on their health, considering the resilience of the explorers versus the constant threat of disease and malnutrition. You feel the dull ache in your own limbs, a silent testament to the struggle against dietary deficiencies. There are times when even the best laid plans crumble, and hunger becomes a gnawing, constant companion. You experience the desperation when food becomes truly scarce. A common historical fact is that when game was impossible to find and trade was not an option, the expedition resorted to eating their horses, mules, or even dogs. You wince at the thought, but understand the grim necessity of survival. Here's a quirky yet rather stomach-churning detail. During particularly dire stretches, they would sometimes scrape the moss from rocks or boil roots and bark, anything to provide some substance. Imagine trying to make a meal out of lichen, definitely not a Michelin star experience. Historians still debate the psychological toll these extreme hunger periods took on the men and how close they truly came to total collapse. You feel a profound empathy for their plight, hoping you never have to make such choices, a feeling you probably haven't had since you forgot to pack snacks for a road trip. As the expedition finally returns, changed forever by the vastness they've traversed, you reflect on the culinary journey alongside them. A common historical fact is that the expedition's meticulous journals provide invaluable insights into the flora and fauna of the American West, including descriptions of new food sources and indigenous agricultural practices. You realize the profound impact their experiences had on understanding frontier diets. Here's a quirky piece of information. The expedition also documented the various ways Native Americans prepared different foods, such as roasting camas roots or drying choke cherries, which offered alternative survival strategies they probably wouldn't have considered otherwise. Historians still debate the full extent to which Lewis and Clark's dietary findings influenced subsequent westward expansion and settlement, or if their lessons were quickly forgotten in the rush for new lands. As the echoes of their journey begin to fade, you find yourself drifting, the vastness of the American wilderness now a quiet memory. The crackling fires, the taste of simple, honest food, the relentless rhythm of the river, all are gently receding into the mists of history. You feel the weight of their immense effort, the sheer will to survive on what the land offered or what they could trade for. It's a testament to human resilience, to the basic, profound need for sustenance that drives us all. Let the gentle hum of the past lull you into a peaceful slumber, knowing that even the greatest adventures require a steady, if simple, meal. Allow your mind to clear, your breathing to deepen, and sink into the profound quiet of the night. Sweet dreams.